podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome to Haway The Podcast. It's Gav and Andrew joining us for a Tuesday news update. We are back to chat about all things Sunderland. It's been a busy old weekend with Sunderland returning to actual football with the games against Gateshead and South Shields, and we've been a bit distracted by that, and as such we haven't done a news pod for a couple of days. So we are back to chat about transfers and everything else that's going on in the world of Sunderland. Anyways, with me today, we are on our own. It's 1v1. It's me and Andrew. Hello, mate.
Hello, Mara. You all right?
Yeah, very, very good, mate. Apart from it being a miserable wet Monday, but we'll forget all about that. We've been whinging about that off air, haven't we? About the weather and the greyness, and yeah. Sunderland, let's get back to talking about nice positive things. Exactly. I mentioned to you off air, I've got 8 names in front of us of players. Now, we know that we've been linked to virtually every man and his dog over the summer already, and what's it, the 15th of July as this pod goes out, so there's sure to be another 100 more to come, I would imagine. But some of them, I think, are probably links to players who we possibly do have an interest in. I mean, I'll just quickly blast through the list of names I've got. And we're not going to talk about every player, and we're certainly not going to claim to be experts on them. But TBR Football, they've linked us to Nice striker Evan Guessand, someone I've never heard of. They've also linked us to Salvatore Esposito, the Spezia midfielder. Transferfeed.com have linked us to Sene Lamens, who is the goalkeeper at Antwerp, 22-year-old. LaPetiteLillois.com, that's easy for me to say. In the famous words of Chris Wynn. Bafode Diakite, the LOSC Lille centre-back, he's been linked. Amir Richardson, the Fiorentina midfielder, has been linked to us by La Repubblica. But those aren't outlets I don't know that I would say. I'm not certainly questioning anybody, but not ones I'm certainly aware of. So we will not hold our breath on those particular links, Andrew. But some of the more pertinent ones, and one of these was linked to us by TBR Football, but a name which doesn't seem to be going away, and we haven't really talked about him on these pods. In fact, I don't think we have at all, which is Aaron Ramsdale, the Southampton goalkeeper. Somebody who I'm sure most people listening to this will have heard of, given he's played for England. He was number 1 at Arsenal a couple of seasons ago. Relegated last season with Southampton. He made a big money move there last summer, and it just didn't work out for them, and he went down with them. Prior to that, he played for Sheffield United, got relegated with them. Before he was at Arsenal, he was at Bournemouth, and guess what? He got relegated with them. Somebody who seems to take that curse with him everywhere he goes. So Aaron Ramsdale, I mean, I'll ask you about him because I think on the face of it, a player from a relegated team, somebody we know pretty well. He's got Premier League experience. He makes virtually every England squad when he's fit. What do you reckon of that one? Would you be up for that if Aaron Ramsdale came to Sunderland?
Well, I'm glad you've asked me about him and not some of the other names, because I can at least pronounce Ramsdale. I have to be honest, I really trust our recruitment, but this is one that doesn't particularly appeal to me. I don't think necessarily signing relegated players is a problem, but with Ramsdale, it's a few times now. He only ever seems to be at clubs for a couple of seasons max. He is a quality. Well, there is quality aspects to his game, Gav. When you consider some of the other keepers we were linked with, I wonder if he's enough of an upgrade to justify the type of money. It's just my personal feeling, you know.
Yeah. I think I'm with you on that. I mean, prior to these links, I've always been in a camp where I'm like, I'm just not sure about Aaron Ramsdale. Like even when he was at Arsenal, do you remember when he was at Arsenal and he was number 1, and it was so with him there for a while, and then they went and signed David Raya from Brentford, and they had 2 number 1s, so like Arteta decided he was just going to rotate them, and that was doomed to fail from the off. It was never going to work. So I want to pick up on something you just said though. I do trust the recruitment of this of the football club at the minute. So, and I've said this to people when I've been talking about Ramsdale, because it hasn't really went down very well, this link. You know, putting my own feelings aside on him, you know, I trust Speakman.
Yeah.
I trust Stuart Harvey. I trust Régis Le Bris. I trust their judgment, you know. So if they think Aaron Ramsdale's a good fit, I'll support it, you know. If they bring him in, I'll try and see the positives in it. He gets a clean slate and a fresh start, just like every other player does when they come to Sunderland. But I almost feel like if we signed him, he's not going to get much of a honeymoon period with the fans. Yeah. People are going to be expecting him to come in and hit the ground running, particularly given if you're signing Aaron Ramsdale, 25 million quid. It's a lot of money. And we've already got an established number one. Yeah. So he's going to have to come in and show immediately that he's better than Anthony Patterson. And that's going to be very tough for him. But, you know, like I say, I'm not 100% against it. I just think some of the other links we've had to goalkeepers over the summer have maybe made me feel a little bit more excited and a little bit more assured. I suppose Ramsdale would add a component we're missing, which is Premier League experience. I mean, he's played lots of Premier League football, and that is something we do lack. So, you know, there are upsides to any potential signing. And look, he, like I said, he's played for England a lot. He's, you know, played for Arsenal, who are a top club. I think he's very much in that mould of modern goalkeeper, in that he likes to use his feet. But yeah, it just, I don't know if you sort of agree or not with me on that, about the trust we have in the recruitment and stuff. Like you wouldn't be. You're a bit like me. You're a massive Sunderland fan. You're going to support the lad regardless if we do sign him.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I'm not writing him off or getting the pitchforks or anything out. If he comes along, wish him all the best. And he's not a shocking goalkeeper. He does have some qualities. I think he's a very bright lad as well, from what I can gather. It's just one of the few times I've looked at a link and I haven't been on board with it.
Yeah.
But you know, the club are quite good at making decisions for what they feel are the right reasons. They're not going to do or cancel a deal just because of what I'm saying. You know, yeah. They won't have just decided this for a laugh. Like you say, they've got good processes. If they've looked at the data and the scouting footage and think he can do a job, then brilliant, bring him in. But for the time being, it's one where if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be too disappointed.
Yeah. Sticking on the theme of goalkeepers, Sam Johnstone, also an England international goalkeeper, plays at Wolves at the minute. Alan Nixon in The Sun at the weekend claimed that we've got an interest in Sam Johnstone. I know he's been linking him with us for a while now, but we did last week announce the hire of Neil Cutler, who has just been working with Johnstone at Wolves. You know, somebody who he obviously gets on very well with, knows him very well. Again, a bit like Ramsdale, not a particularly exciting link, but you can see the benefits. A little bit more experience than Ramsdale too. He's in his 30s now, has had a number of moves to Premier League clubs over the years. Like I said, has played for England and has been a part of a lot of England squads too as a third choice. You know, maybe he doesn't have many caps, but he's probably been in 50, 60 England squads. So, you know, he's not a stranger to top level football, and would probably be coming a lot cheaper than maybe a Ramsdale or somebody else. But again, I don't know about you, not someone who gets me pulse racing.
Not particularly, and I'm actually a fan of Patterson in the first place. So yeah, if Patterson was to be replaced, I'd like to see him making way for somebody who's like in a couple of brackets above. I don't know if Johnson fits into that role. I take your point about we could do with one or two more players with Premier League experience about the place. It's not the be-all and end-all, but it is a good thing to have. Johnson has been around for a while. I seem to think his brother was with us for a while, Gav.
Yes,
he was.
He was. Yeah, I think we signed him when we were in. I want to say when we were right at the start of the League One journey.
Right.
I think we signed him, and he was just signed as part of the 21 squad.
Yeah,
Johnstone.
Yes, that's
his name.
And
yeah, he was. I think he just played for the under 21s and then kind of left. It was around that time when basically the under 21 squad had been pillaged And I think we just went out and looked at who was a free agent and signed them. I mean, I'm just looking at it now very quickly. I was right. Right, the very first season when we were in League One, he came in on a free from Man United, and he left a year later to join St Johnstone up in Scotland. I guess there's that family link if he was considering it, But I mean, it's not like it's not like a massive family link, is it? It's just someone who was in the academy for a year. But still, yeah. I'm again, like I said, not a particularly exciting link, that one. And I could see sense in that if he was coming in as a number 2.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be against someone like that as a number 2, but somebody to come in and take Patterson's shirt. Not too sure about that.
What we don't know about either of these players is what their character's like. And as you've said, our new goalkeeping coach knows him pretty well. Now, that might either mean that it's a very simple link for the newspapers to make, where they put 2 and 2 together and get 5, or it might be that the coaching staff know that Johnson's a good lad to have around the place. Like you say, maybe if he's being viewed more as a backup goalkeeper, but he can be trusted on not rock the boat and maybe help other keepers come on. It might make sense. Don't get us wrong. Neither of these goalkeepers would I be dead against, Gav. They're just not ones that I think the deals need to be done. That's how I see it.
Yeah. To be honest, I've got a feeling that the club are probably going to be a bit more adventurous. When you've seen some of the links earlier in the window. I mean, Marcin Bulka, who ended up going to Neom in Saudi Arabia. Obviously, we were very interested in him, and that was apparently 25 million euros on the table to sign him. So that tells me we've got budget there to sign a top goalkeeper, and it's just a matter of when, not if. I think we'll sign somebody, and I can probably I can believe the Ramsdale link more than the Johnstone one, because Ramsdale would come at a cost, and reputationally, he's had a lot of Premier League moves. He's played for England. He's still young for a goalkeeper, 27-year-old. Johnstone, if we were saying, right, Anthony Patterson's our number 1, we want experienced quality cover, that's not going to cost a fortune. Well, there you go. Sam Johnson's your man. I can understand it then. And if we did go out and sign him, it would say a lot about what they think about Patterson's future, wouldn't it? It would tell you that he's pretty much nailed on to be the number 1.
Yeah, you're right. It would say that. And I think the club are very good at, if a particular deal doesn't happen, they don't just then go and sign somebody else for the sake of it.
Yeah.
So maybe their attitude was, we rate Patterson, we think he's capable. If we can get somebody who is a couple of levels above, we'll do it. But if not, we're not gonna spend just for the sake of it. Just one thing I would say about Ramsdale is we do have a good reputation for taking players who've had knocks in their career, had setbacks, and giving them that home and helping them capture the best form. So that might be something the club are thinking about. But yeah, whoever comes in goal or as the backup to Patterson, it'll be properly thought about. It won't just be done on a whim. And if Patterson starts the season for me, I'm happy for that. Yeah,
I agree. Moving on slightly then, the last link that I have written down here from L'Equipe is Bilal El Khannouss, who plays for Leicester. He's an attack midfield player. That one seems to be gathering a bit of pace online, that link to Sunderland and him. Leicester paid £21 million for him last summer, and given Leicester didn't spend a lot last season, that was a big commitment, that fee. He was at Genk in Belgium previously, and you look at the last 2 years, we've signed 4 players from Belgium. We signed Romain Mundal, Omer Abdellaoui, Shemsdin Talbi, and Noah Siddiqui have all came from Belgium. So it's clearly a country we scout and we look at very closely. I have read that Florent Gassolfi is a bit of an expert when it comes to Belgium and looks at that very closely and has got extensive knowledge and contacts in Belgium. So you wouldn't at all be surprised if this was true. And, a player from a relegated side, yes, but somebody who Leicester fans actually rate very, very highly. I've heard this from a few people now who know Leicester fans who've said actually he was one of the only bright spots in their team last season when they went down. And with it being L'Equipe, who are the ones reporting this, I'm more inclined to believe it because to be honest, they're very reputable, and their knowledge of Sunderland at the minute seems pretty spot on. You've got to be wondering who they speak to at the club. It's going to be somebody quite high up, maybe somebody with a French name. But Khannouss, somebody, again, I can't profess to be an expert, Andrew. I'm pretty sure you won't be, but someone I've heard of, and I have seen him, and he is impressive. You know, he's a how do I put this? You know, attacking midfield player with a low centre of gravity, good feet, can link up the play, and crucially has played in the Premier League. I know he's only young, but that's not a link I look at, unlike the ones we've just been talking about, where I go, I'm not sure about that one. The only thing I'm not sure about is the fact he's Moroccan, and we seem to be building a squad which won't be available over the winter. So he'd be yet another one, wouldn't he? But I think we're past that point now. I don't think it matters anymore. We might as well sign another 10 players who are going to play in the AFCON. It doesn't really matter. But is he somebody you're aware of, someone you've seen or not?
I'm aware of him, but only kind of like on a match of the day level. You'll hear him mentioned on highlights on match of the day and that. But I think he's got 30 odd appearances, which for a team who struggled last year, I think that says a lot. As you said, I think Leicester fans were impressed with what he did. That type of player is very easy to drop from a team, particularly if they're struggling. You know, a manager might choose to go a different way. So the fact that he played a lot for them last year suggests that he's of a level. Sunderland have obviously identified midfield as an area they want to strengthen in. And you mentioned Talby there. I think I've pronounced that correctly.
Correct, yeah.
Am I right in thinking he's just confirmed himself for Morocco, hasn't he?
Yes, but apparently, he has declared for Morocco. He's never actually been capped. He was capped at younger age group level by Belgium all the way through, but then decided to elect to play for Morocco, apparently. But he hasn't yet been in a squad, so...
It's just, I thought I'd seen somewhere when this link first started coming out, Gav, I think they know each other. Now, again,
probably
that could just be people putting 2 and 2 together, and I don't think the club are going to sign players just because they've already got a mate in the squad. Yeah,
well, Khannouss was born in Belgium and played for Belgium at under 15s, 16s and 18s level, so it's quite possible that paths across. They'll have probably played against each other at younger age group level too. I mean, he made his first team debut at Genk in 2022, and he's a little bit older than Talby, but I'm going to imagine they know each other, both being young men from Belgium who have elected to play for Morocco. I would imagine they know each other, yeah. But we heard that from Talby when he signed, didn't he? He said he already knows Siddiqui from playing together in Belgium. So yeah, I mean, it is important, isn't it, when you're signing players who are young, that you try and give them some sort of support network, and that may well be, signing players around the same age from the same areas that they can kind of get along with too. So it's another added bonus when you're signing a quality footballer if they can fit in a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you're right. I think it is a bonus if players are coming in and don't feel alone. But in the past, had we been linked with a quality midfielder who's played for his international team and done well in the Premier League, I might have thought, are they going to go somewhere else? But now, like you say, when somebody, a decent source such as L'Equipe, are linking us with these players, you can now at least think, this could be something to this. We've already been able to convince people like Talby that we are a club worth coming to. So yeah, Khannouss might be the next one. There might be a bit of substance to this one, and we obviously are able to get into these young lads and say, come up to Sunderland, we're trying to do something here. So I wouldn't be surprised if this had a bit more to it.
Yeah. Let's stick on the theme of transfers and outgoings. Régis Le Bris was asked a little bit about this after the game against South Shields at the weekend. He was talking about Nectar Triantis. I think there's a clamour in Scotland for him to go back to Hibs. If it was me advising Triantis, I would be saying, you're better than that. I understand why Hibs would want him, but I'd question if they could afford him. I'd question, if that's the next logical step for him really in his career, when you consider he's had 2 loans there, done very well. if I was him, if I was not going to be stopping with Sunderland, I'd be either wanting a permanent or a loan to a higher level in Scotland. But Régis Le Bris was asked about him and he said, we'll see for every player. He's talking about his future, of course. I told them that the first 2 weeks we are dedicated to connection. After that, we'll have to be clear. Some of them need game time, but if it's not possible for the squad in the Premier League, it's not necessary to stay here. We'll decide early. For Nectar, he had a good season last season. He played well on loan. It's the same for everyone. Let's use these first 2 weeks to understand where they are exactly. Then we will decide for everyone. So non-committal there. I know that the Hibs manager did say last week when asked about Nectar Triantis that basically Sunderland wanted to look at him in pre-season and would make a decision. That's virtually what Régis Le Bris has just said there. But what do you think of Nectar Triantis? I was a bit disappointed at the weekend that he didn't get 45 minutes in midfield. I know it's a training exercise. We can't read too much into performances, particularly the first one of pre-season. I mean, they've been back a week or whatever it is prior to that. But Triantis, is he somebody, you're expecting to leave? Because I got to be honest, I am. I would really like to see him play for us, but I'm not convinced he's got a long-term future with Sunderland at the minute. Not when we're in the Premier League anyways.
No, but he does have time on his side. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with us maybe saying hang around till January so we can get a proper look at you. Mm-hmm. You never know, might have a half-decent run in the Cup, give him a couple of League Cup games. So I don't think with him you need to be as quick to make that decision. He did do really well in Scotland, didn't he? So he will be wanting to make the right decision. On a side note, what I will say about Le Bris, I really love the way he talks about players and how he is kind of keen to be honest with them and make decisions and tell them what the future is. Whenever you hear former players talk, they always prefer the managers who are honest, even if it's a negative thing that they're telling them. If
you remember when we had Simon Ramsdale on the other week, he was talking about Phil Parkinson, wasn't he? And he said he just didn't like him because of that, because he was the opposite. He was a bit slopey and maybe wasn't completely upfront and honest. But when you hear people who play for Mick McCarthy, you knew where you stood with Mick McCarthy. He told you exactly, and that's what people prefer.
Yeah, I think they do. So I like the way he's talking, and I like the way he's saying in a couple of weeks' time we're going to start making decisions and giving people a bit of clarity. As for Triantis, as I say, I wouldn't mind if he hung around just to give us a closer look. I wouldn't be surprised if he left, and if somebody came in with a couple of million, the club might see it as good business. But I don't know. I think all of the positive sense around him in Scotland's just made me think, we might have somebody decent here. As for Shields, I wonder if it was literally just a case of we need somebody to play at centre back and he's available. Maybe as pre-season progresses, we might see him playing the position he's been used to more recently, and that'll give us a better idea.
Yeah, and other outgoings, he didn't actually name check these players, but apparently was asked about Bar, Pembele, Matete, Joe Anderson, Jan Poveda, Nazari Rusyn, Hemir, all of whom Bar Pembele, I think, played in that game at Gateshead. Or not at Gateshead, sorry, at Hebben against Gateshead on Saturday. And he effectively said, they're all free to go. They can go. So, whereas he was a bit less committal with the players who were part of the squad at the minute who maybe are humming and hawing over where they go. With those lot, he basically said they can go. And there's no real shocks there, is there? Let's be honest. I mean, Bar had a loan away to the French second division, and we don't really know how he did, but we certainly didn't hear any glowing reports. Pembele played in a team which stayed up by the skin of its teeth on the final day in Le Havre. Matete went to Bolton and I think was bit part and had injuries. And, Bolton were in League One, where in the Premier League, you're not going to see Jay Matete in a Sunderland shirt. Joe Anderson, still here somehow. When there's a nuclear apocalypse, there'll be Joe Anderson and the cockroaches left on Earth, I think. There'll be many others crawling about. Jan Poveda, who, according to our very own James Nichols, who wrote the the Musings piece on the site, which went out on Sunday, has had a very good game actually against Gateshead. And although we didn't get to watch that unless you were there in person, you wouldn't have seen that. But said he looked trim, he looked fit, he looked, a cut above everyone else on the pitch. I don't think you went to that game, did you? But yeah, anybody who was there might feel free to disagree if that's not right. I don't know, but he did say that he played very well, and I think the club are keen to get rid of Poveda, given he's on big wages on a big contract. Rusyn started that match up front with Hemir as well, who, these players just don't have a future at Sunderland. Like I said, don't know about you, but there's no shocks there, is there?
No, definitely not. I wasn't at either game. I was out with what you like to call the nerd squad, or the what is it, the geek brigade, or whatever it is you like to call us. No, I was out with Chris and Martin and Kelvin, so I didn't see either game, but I heard that about Poveda. And listen, he's had plenty of opportunities in his career now. He's ended up at a few clubs and it hasn't quite worked out for him. He probably knows himself that he's not going to be hanging around at Sunderland. So if he's got the attitude of, well, I'm going to work my backside off and catch the eye of another club, good luck to him. But no, there's nobody in that squad you would expect to be at Sunderland much longer. And I think the second we won at Wembley, that group of players you mentioned there, Gav, I think they all knew from that point onwards, there's no future for us at Sunderland.
Yeah.
Not at a Premier League club.
No. Other players who weren't involved at the weekend, but are certainly part of the plans, given we've just dropped the best part of 100 million on them. Noah Siddiqui, Shamsin Talbi, who we mentioned before, Ronaldo, who I don't think is at the club yet.
No.
I'm missing a few, aren't I? Who else have we got? Who have I missed?
Well, Diarra and Lefay both featured.
Yes.
Is that
Siddiqui, Talbi, Ronaldo. I can't believe we forgot one of the signings. What's going on?
This is how mad Sunderland are now. We've players that cost 20 odd million and we've already forgotten them. I think Ronaldo Mandela.
Yes.
I think he was involved in the Club World Cup, wasn't he? So he's been given an extended break.
Yeah. Simon Adingra, there we go. This game was the last one through the door. I mean, we're signing that many players, we're losing track of who we've got. It's horrendous, isn't it?
Another well-known player with Premier League experience. Just throw him on the pile.
Yeah, but those four, apart from Ronaldo, they were all in the crowd at Shields watching the game. And it looks like Noah Siddiqui's international clearance, which kept him out of that game, has come through, because the club are now releasing photographs, which were clearly taken of him a week or so ago, saying Noah's home. And he was in the crowd, as we say, at the weekend. So looks like I'm presuming that'll be drip fed through the media at some point to say that's done. And hopefully the same will be for the other players. All those guys. Hopefully they'll be available to go over to Portugal. On some other news, then Alan Nixon, I mentioned before, he ran a few stories on Sunderland over the weekend, and this has been backed up by the Express. But Chris Rigg offered a new deal, Andrew. Now, you only signed one last year, but that was before he firmly established himself as a first teamer. Obviously played 40 odd games in the Championship last year, which is some going for a kid who's just turned 18. So 17, 18-year-old playing 40 odd games in the Championship, it's unheard of these days. But Chris Rigg managed to do it. Not surprised that he's been offered a new deal. I think the club are going to be. I mean, the story mentioned that West Ham and Everton are sniffing around him, and I'm sure that there are many, many more just waiting to see if he makes that step up into the Premier League. I mean, if we get to January and Rigg's played, 15 games in the Premier League and has proven that he can do it, I do think, we're going to have interest in him. And this might just be a bit of insurance from the football club. Get him on a new deal, more money, longer terms, better terms for the club. And when that interest does come around, we're protected and we're safe. I think that's possibly what this is.
It's got to be. The club have been really good with this type of thing over the last couple of years. They've been really proactive, and I like to see how they've looked after themselves and given the player a bit of surely given them a bit of confidence. But yeah, if Tommy Watson can be sold to Brighton for 10 million on the back of 10 Championship starts, you've got to assume that all the top Premier League clubs are well aware of Chris Rigg by now. Bit of a shame he got injured on international duty. I would have liked to have seen how he'd done over the summer. But yeah, the top clubs will just be waiting, as you say, maybe a few weeks into the Premier League season to see if he's a real deal, and they'll start circling. So if Sunderland are able to get in there and make him feel wanted and protect themselves, then everybody's happy.
Yeah, I would like to see Chris Rigg stay here as long as he possibly can, but I'm not daft. He represents pure profit on the balance sheet at the end of the day, and if he has 10, 15 appearances in the Premier League, starts even up to January, 18-year-old, having already done a full season in the Championship, made his debut when he was 15. Every top club in Europe's going to be looking at him, and rightly so. And we just have to be ready for that. And to be honest, I think the club have done a brilliant job with not just Rigg's development, but the way that we've handled the off the pitch stuff. Because when he's had big decisions to make, I mean, when he signed his first pro deal, at that point as a scholar, you can leave, you can go. There will have been interest from Man U, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, you name it. And he said, "Nah, I'm staying with Sunderland because I'm going to get the best chance." And I actually think that was mentioned in the article with the Express, where they said that he's happy to stay in familiar surroundings in the northeast, and there's a feeling amongst those close to him that Sunderland will offer the best opportunity of playing regular top flight football, which I think is true. If you go to Everton or West Ham, you aren't guaranteed those chances. And how many times have we seen it down the years where a top prospect teenager gets a big money move to a Tottenham, to an Everton, to a Liverpool, you name it, and the opportunities aren't as great as what they could have been if they maybe took a different route. It's not always the grass isn't always greener, and I do think that the club and Rigg's family and Rigg himself, because he's his own person, he can make decisions, have done really well, because the reason he's playing Premier League football at 17, 18-year-old is because they stuck with Sunderland. To me, that's very straightforward, and hopefully that means we get to see a lot more of him over the coming years.
Definitely, and don't get me wrong, I don't want us to sell him. I think he can really progress his career here. As you say, he feels comfortable in the environment. Sunderland have made him feel welcome. Whenever you see the behind-the-scenes footage, he looks to be well in with the rest of the lads. So he's loving life at the moment. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I want him to be here for as long as possible. I think he'll do brilliantly for us, and we'll do right by him. Just if that time comes, Sunderland need to be able to cash in. It sounds horrible, but it's the same with Job. We all like to be romantic as football fans and think these players are going to be here forever. It doesn't work like that. So if we have good contracts in place and it means we can get good fees in for them, I mean, a lot of these deals that we talked about earlier, Gav, we were able to do them because we've sold Job for however much money it is. Mm-hmm. I don't want Rigg to leave anytime soon, but if losing Rigg means we could in future strengthen 2 or 3 areas, the club would be foolish not to put themselves in a situation where that could happen.
Yeah. Also, from Alan Nixon, Dan Ballard may attract offers if he loses his place in the side. Is that just a warning from his agent? Or what, It's an interesting little line, that. I mean, that's all it was. It was a line, but I think that's a given, isn't it? Dan Ballard's going to attract interest. But I do think that's a two-way street, isn't it? Because Dan Ballard will start lots of games next season, but he's got to stay fit. And unfortunately, he's had 2 years where he's not stayed fit. And if he does, he'll play every week because he's that good. He's a quality footballer, but we also have to have a bit of insurance ourselves. We can't. I mean, when you see we're missing Serkin, Hjelde, Onai, and Elise till after the September international break, it's a given we're going to sign central defenders. Nobody's place is guaranteed. However, Ballard did himself many favours by the way he ended the season, and I think he's now, very much first choice and very much seen as a Premier League player. But it's an interesting little line, that, isn't it? It almost feels like it's been thrown out by somebody as a bit of a warning shot.
You're right. Alan Nixon seems to have been busy this week with Sunderland news. But I mean, you'd be disappointed in any player if they didn't have the attitude of, well, if I'm not getting games, I want to go somewhere else. That just says to me that, yeah, Ballard's like most young, hungry footballers that want to progress their career. Yeah. I think there's a place for Ballard, but you're dead right. He ended the season fantastically, but that was only the last 2 or 3 weeks. He hadn't been playing prior to that. So for him to progress, whether it's in a Sunderland shirt or another team, he needs to show that he can play over a long period and not pick up injuries. I mean, he's a physical player. He is going to get bumps and bruises. I'm not too worried by that line. Like you say, maybe somebody's just being a bit mischievous or whatever, but Ballard's another one. He seems to like it here. He's popular with the fans. And yeah, you would imagine, at least at the start of the season, he's going to have that chance to nail down a place because there's not many other options anyway.
Yeah. Let's move on a little bit then. Something outside of what happens on the pitch, I guess. Sunderland Association Football Club have been awarded an honorary doctorate of sport by the University of Sunderland, which was collected by David Bruce last week. And there's a great photo of David Bruce in all of his graduation regalia, stood there holding it, looking very, very proud on behalf of the football club. And he accepted the award on Friday during the university's summer graduation ceremonies. And I think this is the final time that the uni are going to hold the ceremonies at the Stadium of Light. They've been held there for 21 years. And, during that time, so much has changed at the football club, 20 odd years. It's been a long old period. And the university's Vice-Chancellor, Sir David Bell, said when the University of Sunderland first came to the Stadium of Light for graduation ceremonies, the club had just been promoted to the Premier League. With perfect symmetry, our last graduation ceremonies here at the stadium have coincided with another promotion back to the Premier League. The promotion could not have come at a better time as it sits alongside the continuing transformation of Sunderland as a place to live, work and study. Even though our graduations in the future will be held in the city centre, the relationship between the club and the uni is enduring as we build new partnerships and relationships for the future. And David Bruce had this to say upon accepting the award. He said, it's an incredible honour for Sunderland AFC to receive this recognition from the University of Sunderland. Our roots are deeply embedded in the city's culture and history, and this award celebrates not only our footballing journey, but also our long-standing connection with education and community. We are proud to represent Sunderland on and off the pitch, and we look forward to continuing our partnership with the university as the city continues to come together to forge an exciting future. And I just want to give myself props for reading all of that without tripping over my own words, which is probably the first on this podcast. It's just nice, that, isn't it? I mean, we did that podcast, a month or so ago with Councillor Kevin Johnstone, and we just waxed lyrical about the city and the direction it's heading and how it all seems to be working hand in hand with the football club. And it's sad to see that it's not going to be held at the stadium any longer, because that's something. I mean, you always associate Sunderland University with those graduation ceremonies over the summer at the Stadium of Light. But still, nice for the club to be recognised, and nice to hear also, they're not leaving on bad terms. They're just moving to a more central location. But David Bruce, again, somebody who's became basically the figurehead of the football club, really, hasn't he? When you think about Kirill, he's obviously very focused on the football side of the operation, where David Bruce is your day-to-day in and around the club, dealing with this sort of thing. And I mean, I don't know if you were aware of that news before I brought it up or not, but it's nice. It's just something else, isn't it? And the city is moving forward at pace, and I imagine that the uni are going to be focusing more around what's going on in the city rather than the football club. But yeah, a nice bit of news, that.
Yeah, I knew about the doctorate. I didn't know they weren't going to do the graduations there anymore. And I've got to say, I'm gutted, Gav, because my daughter started Sunderland Uni in September. No. And we're already looking forward to the big day at the stadium. So, yeah, that's a bit of a shame. But like you say, it's obviously just, it's not because the two groups have fallen out or anything. There's a good relationship there. Sunderland as a club over the last few years have been working hard to embed themselves in the community. I think they sponsor a lot of events that take place in the city centre and what have you. Mm-hmm. And listen, David Bruce is not daft. He's a local lad himself. He gets that there's this connection. He's trying to make the most of it, and it's good to see. Really nice to see the club recognised, and that just again points to the fact that everybody at the moment seems to all be heading in the right direction with the club. There's a good mood around Sunderland at the moment, and it's nice. It's good stuff.
Yeah. The story did round off by saying from the beginning of 2026, the university will host ceremonies at the fire station from now on. Yeah. So obviously something a bit more central, something they're very proud of in the city. Yeah, you can kind of understand the logic. Plus, plenty bars and restaurants around it, and people staying in the city centre after the graduation ceremonies, I would imagine, with the families. Last but not least, I mean, we mentioned before the members of the bomb squad, as we've coined them, Bar, Pembele, Matete, Anderson, Poveda, Rusyn, Hemir. Well, if you want to see them for possibly one final time, the under-21s are playing tonight at Darlington's Blackwell Meadows, 7:30 kick-off. That'll obviously be a game which features a lot of the stars of the future too from Sunderland. So if you want a bit of football, if you want your fix before the rest of the squad head to Portugal, if they've not already headed off, get yourself down to Blackwell Meadows for a game of football. I'm sure it'll be entertaining, and like I say, you'll be able to see some of those lads play possibly for the last time. Yeah,
and if nothing else, you're going to see a local club putting a couple of quid in their coffers, which you touched upon previously with the Gateshead and the South Shields games. So nice to see Sunderland sending a team down there tonight, and hopefully it's a decent crowd, and everybody enjoys themselves.
Yeah,
can't beat the game of football, live football.
That's it. Yeah, we've obviously got Sunderland's little mini tour of Portugal coming up at the weekend. I imagine they're already over there. They'll be doing their training and getting stuck right into it in that lovely Portuguese heat. And I'm not jealous at all of anyone making the trip. But we've got games coming up at the weekend. We've got Saturday night we're playing Sevilla, and then on Monday night we play Sporting Lisbon. So 2 games over in Portugal, which we will build up to, and we'll have podcasts around and following and all the rest of it and all that good stuff, because of course we can't stop talking about Sunderland. And then next week, the week after that, we play Hearts away at Tynecastle, and in the build to that we've got a podcast with Craig Gordon, who of course is the centrepiece of that particular occasion, giving it his testimonial. So keep an eye out for that one over the coming days. We've got lots coming up on the feeds. We've also got on Monday, just gone there, on this week. Of course, Andrew, you were on that one, and you, Kelvin and Chris had a good old chinwag again. What do you want to just, anyone who hasn't heard it, give them a bit of a rundown on what you talked about this week?
Yeah, it was a good conversation we had. Kelvin spoke about Brian Clough and Joe Bolton, who were 2 of his favourites. And
I did like the Brian Clough stuff in particular, because you hear a lot of Cloughie stories. There's millions out there, but there isn't much about his time at Sunderland. And Kelvin did a very good job, you're right, of covering that off.
Yeah, Kelvin's brilliant. Chris has said this before. It's lovely when Kelvin starts bringing up first-hand memories from that time. And yeah, Brian Clough, his whole career, his management career, was influenced by his time at Sunderland. So yeah, honestly, Kelvin, if you get a chance to listen to what he says about those 2, brilliant. And then I touched upon a couple of stories. We looked at the Bob Stokoe statue, which was unveiled. That was a nice one. And yeah, just all sorts of random Sunderland stories from back in the day, Gav, and good fun. And yeah, love it if people could listen and get in touch and let us know if we've stirred any memories.
Yeah. Also at the weekend, we had the top 10 of Sunderland's foreign imports in the Stadium Light Year. I mean, you were on that one with Chris and Johnny. That was good fun, just ranking our top 10s and talking about players who we used to love watching and all the rest of it. So that good stuff's out there. And of course, there was the reaction pod following the Shields game. Me and Johnny jumped on for 20 odd minutes just to chat about the match. So if you watched the match, or maybe you missed the match and you want to know what happened, stick that one on. There's plenty to catch up on. As I say, you can go right the way back through the archives. We've got interviews from last week with we got a Brighton fan on last week talking about Simon Adingra. We've had other top 10s. We've had player interviews go out. So loads to catch up on the feeds. We're back every single day with a new pod. Like I say, through this week, there's going to be plenty for you to listen to. So hopefully you enjoy. That just leaves me to say thank you very much to the listeners, and thank you very much to you, Andrew. Been great, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Loved it.
Yeah, and like I say, everybody, we'll be back with another pod tomorrow. We'll see you then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.